There's nothing like the thrill of exploring the great outdoors, hiking through dense forests, climbing towering mountains, or paddling down fast-moving streams. But sometimes nature doesn't play fair. One wrong step, a sudden storm, or just plain bad luck can turn an adventure into a nightmare. In this list, we're diving into some of the absolute worst deaths that have happened during outdoor adventures. Tragic, brutal, and sometimes downright bizarre. Get ready, because these stories will make you think twice before your next big trip into the wild. In October 2018, Jordan Greer, a passionate outdoorsman from Merard, New Mexico, set out on what would become his most perilous journey. The 29-year-old had spent years mastering survival skills, pushing the limits of isolation and self-reliance. His latest challenge? To endure a brutal Minnesota winter alone in the remote and unforgiving Boundary Waters Canoe Area wilderness. It was supposed to be the ultimate test of his abilities, but Jordan never came back. A month before his departure, Jordan celebrated his birthday with his family, a moment now frozen in time. He set off alone in early October, armed with supplies, experience, and an unshakable will. On October 8th, he sent his family a single photograph of a beaver pond near his chosen campsite, a glimpse into the world he was about to disappear into. It was his last known contact. As weeks passed without word, unease settled over his loved ones. Then a chilling clue emerged. Jordan's white truck, parked near a private gate off the Sioux Hustler Trail, packed with supplies but abandoned. Authorities launched a search, but the brutal Minnesota winter soon slammed the region with relentless snow and sub-zero temperatures, sealing Jordan's fate in ice and silence. Months passed. Hope dwindled. Then, in April 2019, with the thaw came a horrifying discovery. Sean Williams, a conservation officer, stumbled upon a makeshift campsite on a desolate, south-facing slope. What he found sent a chill through investigators. A hammock strung beneath a green tarp, a blood-soaked sleeping bag, and a loaded, but unused, 9mm Beretta pistol resting nearby. Wolf tracks circled the site, a grim reminder of nature's cruel indifference. But of Jordan himself, there was no sign. As the snow continued to melt, more clues surfaced, each more unsettling than the last. Scattered bones, just 12 in total, were found in the area. His skull, never recovered. What happened in those final moments? The evidence left behind only deepened the mystery. Jordan's mother, Rebecca Greer, believed her son had been ambushed in the dead of night by a hungry wolf pack. But experts, including Thomas Gable of the Voyageurs Wolf Project, dismissed this theory. No fatal wolf attack had been recorded in Minnesota since the 1800s. There were no signs of a struggle. If not wolves, then what? Other theories emerged, each with its own disturbing implications. Had Jordan suffered a fatal accident? His knives were known to be razor-sharp. Had he cut himself while carving or shaving, bleeding out in the cold before he could call for help? Some bandage-like materials were found near the site, hinting at an attempted self-rescue, but no bloody knife was ever recovered. And could a mere wound account for the sheer volume of blood saturating his hammock? The possibility of foul play cast a long shadow over the case. Had someone followed Jordan into the wilderness, attacked him in the dead of night? Yet his gun lay untouched, no signs of struggle or defensive wounds. Could something even more sinister have happened? Online theorists took the case in eerie directions. Whispers of the Wendigo, the legendary beast of the Northwoods, and the elusive Sasquatch surfaced in hushed conversations. Could Jordan have stumbled into something not meant to be seen? In May 2019, Jordan's family made the heart-wrenching journey to the site. Standing among the remains of their son's last camp, they searched for answers that would never come. His mother noticed something chilling. There were no wood shavings, nothing to indicate he had settled in, carved or whittled as he always did. Had he only stayed for one night before meeting his fate? Despite extensive searches, much of Jordan's body was never found. No definitive cause of death was established. The authorities eventually closed the case, citing no evidence of foul play or suicide. But for those who knew Jordan, and for those who now know his story, the question lingers. Was he taken by the wilderness, by a predator, by an accident, or by something else entirely? The truth may forever be lost in the frozen silence of the Boundary Waters. The early morning of July 6, 2021, shattered the tranquility of Ovando, Montana. Nestled along the Blackfoot River, this quiet town became the backdrop for a chilling encounter, one that would end in tragedy. Leah Davis Loken, a 65-year-old retired nurse from Chico, California, had always embraced adventure. She was an avid cyclist, drawn to the thrill of the outdoors, and had eagerly set off on a long-distance journey along the Great Divide mountain bike route. She had prepared for months, but nothing could have prepared her for what lay ahead. Ovando, a town of fewer than 100 residents, is known for its rugged wilderness and proximity to the vast Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex, a landscape shared with an estimated 1,000 grizzly bears. Leah's journey brought her here, and rather than seeking the safety of a hotel like her sister and friend, she made the fateful decision to camp outside, behind a small museum. As darkness fell, Leah and a Texas couple set up camp, but in the dead of night their peaceful rest was shattered by the presence of an intruder, a massive 417-pound grizzly bear. At around 3 a.m., Leah awoke to the sound of the beast breathing just inches from her fragile tent. A low, guttural huff sent chills down her spine. The campers sprang into action, making loud noises to scare the bear off. It retreated into the shadows, disappearing into the wilderness. Shaken but relieved, Leah took precautions. She removed snacks and dry food from her tent and placed them inside a building. She armed herself with bear spray, but one crucial mistake remained. Inside her tent, 2 toiletry bags, once used to store dried blueberries, still carried the faintest trace of their former contents. Just 10 feet away, her bicycle sat with saddlebags still containing food. Convinced she had done enough, Leah lay back down and drifted off to sleep under the vast Montana sky. Less than an hour later, terror returned. At approximately 4 a.m., the grizzly was back, this time with deadly intent. It ripped through Leah's tent with horrifying force. In the blink of an eye, it lunged, pinning her beneath its weight. A Texas camper awoke to the nightmare unfolding before his eyes. He saw the bear rearing up, pouncing viciously on Leah's tent. He shouted, grabbing his bear spray, and discharged it in a desperate attempt to stop the attack. But it was too late. The bear had already inflicted fatal wounds. Leah never had a chance. An autopsy later revealed the brutal reality. Her neck had been broken, her spine severed. She had died instantly. This was not a defensive attack. This was predation. Wildlife experts would later confirm that the grizzly had become food conditioned, learning to associate humans with an easy meal. It had stalked Leah, returning with lethal precision to finish what it had started. 3 days later, the predator struck again, raiding a chicken coop near Ovando. This time, it wouldn't escape. Wildlife officials tracked the bear down and shot it dead. DNA testing confirmed what many had feared. It was the same bear that had taken Leah's life. Leah's tragic end was a stark reminder of the ever-growing conflict between humans and grizzlies in the northern Rockies. Leah Davis Loken had spent her life chasing adventure, but on that fateful July morning, she became part of a terrifying reality, one where the line between human and predator grows thinner by the day. The Red Valley of Peru, a mesmerizing expanse of iron-rich soil, shimmering in hues of crimson and emerald, had long drawn adventurers seeking the untouched beauty of the Andean wilderness. But for one traveler, it would become the site of a heartbreaking tragedy, an untimely meeting between raw nature and sheer, unforgiving power. November 2024. Gabriela Diana Basalo, a 32-year-old from Buenos Aires, Argentina, had always embraced life's adventures. A devoted mother to a 10-year-old son, she had recently married Samuel Sierra, the man with whom she planned to explore the world. With a background in cosmology and aesthetics, Gabriella split her time between her passion for makeup artistry and a career in logistics. She was no stranger to the unpredictable, both in work and in life, but nothing could have prepared her for what awaited in the Red Valley. The trip to Peru was a dream come true, a chance to stand at the edge of the world, to breathe the thin, crisp air of the high Andes, to marvel at nature's artistry etched into the mountains. On November 1st, Gabriella and Samuel joined a guided hike through the valley, trekking past landscapes that looked as if they belonged to another planet. But beauty in the wild is never without its dangers. As they descended, the sky began to shift. A heavy silence blanketed the valley. The crisp blue overhead darkened into a swirling storm, rolling in faster than anyone had expected. The once picturesque backdrop transformed into an ominous warning. Dark clouds brooding above the peaks, whispering of an unseen threat. Then it struck. A blinding flash of white-hot energy tore through the sky, splitting the silence with a deafening explosion. A bolt of lightning, precise and merciless, found its target. Gabriella. She never saw it coming. The sheer force of the strike stopped her heart before she could scream. Her body, marked by nature's wrath, was thrown to the ground, smoke rising from her skin. Samuel, hurled aside by the shockwave, scrambled to reach her, his own body aching, his mind refusing to process the horror before him. He called her name. No answer. Gabriella was gone. The tour guide, Ephraim Zamora Galindo, frantically radioed for help. But nature was not finished. Rain slashed down in relentless sheets, the once solid trail morphing into a treacherous, mud-slick descent. Rescuers tried to reach her, but the storm would not allow it. Gabriella's lifeless body remained in the valley overnight, exposed to the elements that had so violently claimed her. It wasn't until dawn, when the fury of the storm had finally abated, that they retrieved her remains. News of her death sent shockwaves through her loved ones. Her sister, Florencia, was paralyzed by grief, her words laced with regret. Regret for unspoken conversations, for unexpressed love, for the moments she wished she could take back. And then there was Gabriella's son, left behind to face a world forever altered by loss. A mother's love, now just an echo. An investigation confirmed the cruel reality. A direct lightning strike, rare but devastating. The second fatal incident of its kind that month in Peru, it served as a grim reminder of the unpredictable dangers lurking in nature's most breathtaking landscapes. Gabriella Basalo's story is one of wonder, risk, and tragedy, a chilling reminder that in the wilderness, nature does not negotiate. It simply takes. The summer of 2019 was meant to be an unforgettable adventure for Lucas Fowler and Chinna Dees, a journey through Canada's vast and untamed wilderness, celebrating their love and insatiable thirst for exploration. Instead, it became a nightmare, a chilling and senseless tragedy that would haunt their families forever. Lucas, a 23-year-old from Sydney, Australia, had been raised with a love for the outdoors. His childhood was filled with dirt bike rides and camping trips, and by his early 20s his adventurous spirit had already carried him across the globe. It was during these travels that he met Chinna, a 24-year-old from North Carolina. Kind-hearted, free-spirited, and endlessly optimistic, Chinna was the perfect counterpart to Lucas. Their bond was instant, their love undeniable. After spending Christmas together in the U.S., Lucas returned to his job on a remote Canadian ranch, preparing for their long-anticipated road trip. Their plan was simple: 10 days of driving through British Columbia's breathtaking landscapes in Lucas's beloved 1986 blue Chevrolet van, a symbol of their shared love for the open road. But the journey took a dark turn on July 14th. Their van broke down along the remote Alaska highway, roughly 20 kilometers south of Liard Hot Springs. Stranded but undeterred, they laughed, embraced, and even enjoyed a roadside picnic as they tried to get their van running again. Passing motorists recalled the young couple smiling and full of life, blissfully unaware of the horror lurking in the shadows. The following morning, the dream was shattered. A highway worker, Trevor Pierre, made a gruesome discovery. Lucas and Chinna's bodies lay just meters from their van, lifeless and riddled with gunshot wounds. The scene was one of sheer brutality. The back doors of the van swung open, its windows shattered, and the couple's bodies positioned eerily, as if frozen in time. It was clear. This was no accident. This was a cold-blooded execution. For 3 agonizing days, authorities struggled to identify the victims, their faces marred by the violence of their final moments. When the names Lucas Fowler and Chinna Dees were finally revealed, the news sent shockwaves through their families and across the world. Lucas's father, Stephen Fowler, a seasoned detective in New South Wales, was thrust into an unbearable reality. His own son was the victim of a heinous crime. Chinna's family in North Carolina faced their own torment, grappling with the loss of their beloved daughter and sister. Their grief was compounded by an unsettling question. Who would do this, and why? The answers would come, horrifying and senseless. Then, a shocking twist. 2 teenagers, Cam McLeod, 18, and Briar Schmigelski, 19, initially reported as missing persons, were identified as the prime suspects. The revelations turned the case into a nationwide manhunt. Over the next 15 days, police tracked the fugitives across 3 provinces. The young men left a trail of destruction, evading capture and sending fear rippling across Canada. Their final destination? The dense wilderness near Gillam, Manitoba. On August 7th, after weeks of searching, authorities found their bodies deep in the brush. They had taken their own lives, ending the pursuit but offering no justice, no real answers. For the families of Lucas and Chinna, the discovery brought a bitter form of closure. The monsters responsible for their children's deaths were gone, but the senselessness remained. In the days following the tragedy, a single piece of CCTV footage surfaced, offering a haunting glimpse into the couple's final days. It showed Lucas and Chinna at a gas station, laughing, holding each other and wiping down their van's windows. A snapshot of love, of innocence, of a life they were supposed to have. A life stolen by 2 aimless killers with no clear motive, no reason beyond destruction. At their funerals, Lucas and Chinna were remembered not for the tragedy that befell them, but for the love they carried, the joy they spread, and the adventure that defined their short but beautiful lives. On June 30th, 2019, Austin Howell, a renowned free solo climber, set out on what was meant to be another exhilarating ascent, another day pushing the limits of human capability. But by midday, the unforgiving cliffs of Short-Off Mountain in North Carolina would bear witness to a devastating fall, one that would silence a man who had spent his life dancing with danger. Austin, 31, was not just another climber. Born in Friendswood, Texas, he discovered his passion for the vertical world at 19 while attending the University of Houston. From the moment he touched rock, it became his obsession, his calling. But his path was not without hardship. In 2008, a horrific 35-foot fall at an indoor climbing gym shattered his body, fractured vertebrae, broken bones, and a traumatic brain injury that left lasting scars. He fought through the pain, through depression, through the weight of a world that told him to stop. But stopping was never an option. Climbing wasn't just a sport to Austin Howell, it was survival. It was clarity in chaos. By 2019, Austin had become a legend in the world of free soloing, scaling sheer rock faces with no ropes, no harnesses, only his skill, his mind, and the raw power of his fingers grasping stone. His days were filled with daring ascents, moving gracefully across cliffs that most wouldn't dare to touch without extensive protection. To him, it wasn't recklessness. It was art. It was therapy. It was life. That summer morning, Howell arrived at Short-Off Mountain with photographer Ben Wu. The air was thick with humidity, the cliffs towering and unforgiving. Austin began his ascent, a vibrant tie-dye shirt clinging to his back, his cap pulled low over determined eyes. He soloed Dopey Duck and Golden Rule with effortless precision, his movements fluid, calculated. Wu snapped photos as Howell navigated the rock with the confidence of a man who knew no fear. Then, as the sun climbed higher, Wu departed. Austin stayed behind. The mountain called to him. one more climb. Witnesses later recalled seeing him on one of the most treacherous sections of the cliff, attempting a bold move to a delicate flake. A split second, a single miscalculation, a scream tore through the stillness of the gorge as his grip failed. Austin Howell plummeted 80 feet, his body twisting through the air before colliding with the unforgiving earth below. Nearby climbers, stunned by the sudden violence of the fall, rushed to his side. Collins and Massey, two fellow climbers, rappelled down the rock face, their hearts pounding as they reached him. Massey attempted CPR, but the damage was catastrophic. The life that had burned so brightly, that had defied gravity and odds time and time again, was extinguished. By the time emergency responders arrived 90 minutes later, there was nothing left to do but pronounce him dead. The climbing world was shattered. Austin Howell had lived on the edge of existence, always aware of the risks, always pushing forward despite them. His mother, Terry Zynga Jackson, had long feared this day. After his first brutal accident in 2008, she had begged him to reconsider, to step away from the danger. But Howell had been resolute, cutting off his casts, removing his neck brace, and climbing again within weeks. To him, there was no alternative. Life was an inherently dangerous sport, he often said, a phrase he lived by until his final breath. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from across the climbing community. Friends and fans described Howell as more than a climber. He was a mentor, an inspiration, a force of nature who embraced life with an intensity most could only dream of. His Instagram, once filled with breathtaking images and introspective musings, became a digital memorial, a place where his followers mourned, celebrated, and honored his legacy. Some would call it inevitable, an end written in the fabric of free soloing itself. But to those who knew him, Austin Howell was not just a man who chased danger. He was a man who found meaning in the impossible, who sought peace on the edge of oblivion. And in his final moments, on the face of that mountain, he was exactly where he had always belonged, free.